Most people spend 4 to 7 years paying off a car, and then within 90 days of that final payment, they go get another one. Not because they're stupid, not because they weren't warned, because there's a system built specifically for that moment of relief, built for the exact feeling you get when you open your app and the payment is finally gone. Picture it. Tuesday morning, banking app, total autopilot, and you stop. The payment isn't there, not late, not pending, just gone. The balance is just your money, all of it, sitting there. And for about 3 seconds, you feel something genuinely hard to describe. Not just relief, something bigger, like a door opening. Here's what nobody tells you, that feeling, that exact moment. It's also the most dangerous financial moment of your adult life. And the clock starts the second you close the app. I want to show you exactly how that system works, and more importantly, what to do in the 30 days before it catches you. I'm James. I spend a genuinely embarrassing amount of time thinking about small financial decisions that don't look small 20 years later, and the one that keeps me up, the one I keep coming back to, is the car payment cycle. Because it's not just about cars, it's about the way most of us are wired to immediately fill the space that debt leaves behind without ever stopping to ask what we actually want to put there. So let me introduce you to two people, same city, same job, same income. Let's call it around 72,000 a year, which is right around the median household income in America. Same age, 32, both just made their last car payment on the same day. Same phone notification, same weird moment of blinking at the screen. What happens next is where their stories split, and by the time they're in their early 60s, the difference between person A and person B is going to be somewhere north of $1 million. Not because one of them got lucky, not because one of them got a raise, because of what they each decided to do in the next 30 days. That's it. But before we get to the playbook, I want to give you the full picture of what we're actually dealing with, because the scale of this thing is something most people don't fully appreciate. Americans currently carry about $1.8 trillion in auto loan debt. That's trillion with a T, and I want you to really hear that because that number is bigger than the entire student loan debt load was 15 years ago. The average new car payment right now is sitting above $800 a month. And the average loan term, here's the part that genuinely got me, is somewhere between 69 and 84 months. We are financing cars on 7-year timelines. 7 years. Think about what your life looked like 7 years ago. Think about the phone you had. Think about where you were living. We are making financial commitments that stretch across multiple versions of ourselves for a depreciating asset that starts losing value the moment it leaves the lot. And you know what's interesting? The way it gets sold to you. You walk into a dealership and the first question, almost every time, this is just how it goes, is what monthly payment works for you? Not what can you afford for a car, not what's your budget for total transportation costs this year, monthly payment. Because when you frame it that way, you can stretch the term, bury the interest rate, roll in the extended warranty, and the number still sounds fine. It's elegant, really. Elegant design. Bad outcome for whoever walks in. So person A walks out of that dealership 4 years ago with a $750 monthly payment on a loaded SUV. Person B bought used, paid cash for $14,000, drove something that didn't impress anyone in the parking lot. They both arrive at today, person A with their payoff, person B with 4 years of not having that payment, and now we're starting from the same place. The question is what happens next. Let me show you the math. And really show you, because this is the part where it stops being abstract. $700 a month. That's actually a little below average right now, but let's use it because the numbers are clean. If you take $700 a month on the first of every month and you invest it, just park it somewhere boring, a broad index fund, historical average return around 8%, here's what happens. In 5 years, you have roughly $54,000. Okay, that's a decent emergency fund. That's a solid start, but keep going. 10 years, $143,000. You didn't earn that extra $89,000. You just didn't interrupt the compounding. 20 years, $531,000 from $700 a month, and here's the one that gets me every time I run this. 30 years, $1.58 million, a million and a half from what used to be your car payment. You didn't earn that 1.33 million difference between year 5 and year 30. You just didn't stop it. The math did the work. You just had to not get in the way. Now bring back person A and person B. Person A makes their last payment today, genuinely exciting, real milestone, and within 90 days, they're back at the dealership. We'll get to why in a minute. New car, new $800 payment, 7-year term. Person B takes that same $700, automates it the same week, and doesn't touch it for 30 years. The difference in outcome? Somewhere around $1.1 million. Not because of income, not because of anything dramatic, just the decision made in that 30-day window. And if this kind of math is something you think about, if you've ever counted down to a payoff date the way some people count down to a vacation, I'd love for you to subscribe because this channel is basically me working through all of this out loud. Okay, so why does person A end up back at the dealership? This is where it gets genuinely interesting because it's not stupidity, it's not even bad intentions, it's neurology. There's a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences back in 2019 that I think about more than I probably should. Researchers looked at what happened to people's cognitive function after their debt was relieved, specifically lower income participants who had debt forgiven. And what they found was remarkable. Cognitive function improved, anxiety decreased measurably, short-term thinking, that tendency to make decisions based on right now rather than 6 months from now, actually reduced. The brain literally worked differently without the weight of debt. Here's what gets me about that. The improvement wasn't just about the money, it was about the mental space that debt occupies. Because debt isn't just a line on a balance sheet, it's a background process running constantly. You know that thing? Maybe it's 2 a.m., or maybe it's during a meeting where the numbers just start running in your head uninvited. That's what researchers call the cognitive tax of debt. It's doing arithmetic you didn't ask for, at times you didn't choose. And something else from that study, the number of separate debts mattered more to cognitive load than the total amount. Two debts of 5,000 each were more stressful than one debt of 15,000. The mind keeps separate tabs on each one. So getting that car paid off isn't just a financial event, it's neurological. The fog lifts in ways you might not even attribute to the right cause. But here's the paradox. The same relief that frees up cognitive space also makes you vulnerable. Because once that mental load lifts, you feel good, genuinely physiologically good, and feeling good and I deserve something are very close neighbors in the brain. This is where the payoff trap lives. Richard Thaler won the Nobel Prize in economics partly for work on something called mental accounting. The idea is that our brains don't treat money as perfectly fungible. We mentally categorize it, and those categories change how we spend it. An $800 a month car payment lives in a category your brain has already accepted. It's a fixed expense, it's non-negotiable, it's just the cost of having the car. The moment the payment disappears, that $800 doesn't disappear with it. It shows up in your checking account, and your brain, this is the key, and reclassifies it. Suddenly, it's available income, it's breathing room, it's the thing that makes you say, I've been pretty responsible lately, maybe it's time for. And then you're sitting at a red light. You didn't plan this, you're just waiting for the light, and your eyes drift to the truck in the lane next to you, the new one, the trim level above yours, and the thought arrives fully formed, uninvited. I've been driving this thing for 6 years. I deserve an upgrade. That's not weakness, that's a system working exactly as designed. The dealership experience, the monthly payment framing, the constant advertising, the way new cars smell, the way the salesperson knows to let you sit in it before you've made any decision, all of it is engineered for that moment at the red light, and the data backs it up. According to industry research, about 28% of trade-ins in America carry negative equity, meaning people owe more on the car they're trading in than it's worth, and the median trade-in happens at around 3.7 years on a 69-month loan, so people aren't even finishing the loan before they roll the negative equity into the next one. They're stacking underwater debt on underwater debt and calling it an upgrade. Person A at that red light doesn't know any of this consciously, they just feel the pull. And that pull is the result of a very sophisticated, very well-funded industry that has spent decades figuring out exactly how to create it. Now, and I want to be careful here because I think this part gets handled badly in a lot of personal finance content. Let's talk about what the car actually means to people because it's not nothing. Thomas Stanley, who spent decades studying American millionaires, found something that surprised a lot of people when his research came out. 86% of people driving luxury cars are not millionaires, and the median price of a new car purchased by an actual millionaire? $31,000, not the $75,000 pickup, not the loaded European sedan, 31,000, used often, paid cash, usually. But here's what I've noticed, and I think this matters. The car has become a social signal in a way that's almost impossible to step outside of, especially in certain cities, certain jobs, certain communities. Showing up to a client meeting in something 10 years old sends a message you might not want to send. Driving something that looks unsuccessful can actually affect your professional life. I'm not dismissing that. That's real, and anyone who tells you it isn't has probably never had to navigate it. The thing is, the $75,000 truck isn't a signal that you made it. It's a signal that you believe the marketing. The people in Stanley's research who were genuinely wealthy, the quiet ones, the ones who didn't need the exterior validation, they drove the boring sedan, fully paid off, and they were building something nobody could see from the road. The truck is visible, the brokerage account isn't, and that invisibility is kind of the whole point. Okay, here's the part that almost nobody talks about, and I love this because it's hiding in plain sight. When you pay off a car, something very specific changes about your insurance situation, and most people walk right past it. When you have an auto loan, your lender requires you to carry full coverage, comprehensive, and collision both. The lender has a financial interest in your car, it's their collateral, so they get to dictate the coverage. The moment that loan is paid off, that requirement disappears, gone. You're now free to make your own decision about what coverage makes sense. Here's what that's worth. Full coverage on an average American car runs somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000 a year. Liability only, which is the minimum required in most states, runs somewhere between $600 and $1,200. We're talking a potential difference of $1,500 to $2,000 per year, just from adjusting your policy to match your actual situation. Now, in this matters, I'm not saying to drop to liability only on a car that's worth $25,000. That would be dumb. Here's the rule of thumb that actually makes sense. If your annual comprehensive and collision premium is more than 10% of your car's current market value, that coverage is probably not paying for itself mathematically. Check what your car is worth on a used car site right now. Divide that number by 10. If your annual premium for those two coverages is higher than that number, you're probably overinsured relative to what you'd actually collect in a claim. The move most people should make: drop collision, keep comprehensive, raise your deductible to $1,000. Collision covers your car in accidents you cause. Comprehensive covers theft, weather, a deer, a tree. The comprehensive piece is cheap and worth keeping. Collision on a 6-year-old car that's worth $9,000, you're probably paying $800 a year to protect against a claim that might not even cover your deductible, might raise your rates if you file it, and might not be worth the hassle anyway. Call your insurance company the same week you get the title. This is a 10-minute phone call that could free up another $400 to $500 a year. Add that to the former car payment, and now we're not talking about $700 a month going to work. We're talking about $800, maybe $825. So, the playbook: 3 moves, specific order, no exceptions. First, and this is the most important thing I'm going to say today, you automate the transfer before your brain finds the money. Not next week, not when you get around to setting up the account. The same day you would have made the car payment, or as close to it as you can get, you set up an automatic transfer for that exact amount to go somewhere else. The reason this matters is that the window between "I have extra money" and "I've mentally allocated that money to something" is very short. Your brain will find uses for available cash at a speed that will genuinely surprise you. Automation is the only reliable defense against that. Set it up before you've had a chance to think about what you could do with it. Done. Second move: look hard at your existing debt. I know the instinct when you free up cash flow is to invest it immediately, start building the portfolio, put it to work, and I want to validate that instinct because it's coming from the right place. But here's the math that changes the calculation. If you're carrying credit card debt at 21, 22, 24% interest, Paying that off is a guaranteed 22% return. The stock market, historically, averages somewhere around 8 to 10%. You cannot reliably beat 22% guarantee by investing in equities. It's not possible. So if you have high interest debt, and most people do, the average American carries around $6,500 in credit card balances. Attack that before you invest. Get aggressive. The math is unambiguous. Once the high interest debt is gone, or if you don't have any, here's the investing sequence that makes the most sense for most people. First, make sure you're getting your full employer 401k match if you have one. That matches a 50 to 100% instant return. Nothing touches it. After that, max out a Roth IRA if you're eligible. That's $7,000 a year right now, and the tax-free growth on that over 30 years is extraordinary. After that, any remaining amount goes into a taxable brokerage account. Index funds, low cost, boring, automatic. That's the whole strategy. It's not exciting. It's the point. And here's an idea I've been chewing on that I think is underrated, the car fund. Here's how it works. Instead of taking the full former payment and investing it, you carve out $200 a month of it and park it somewhere separate. A high-yield savings account labeled Next Car, that's $2,400 a year. Over 5 years, that's roughly $12,000, maybe a bit more with interest. And when that car eventually needs to be replaced, you buy the next one with cash, no loan, no interest, no lender telling you what coverage you have to carry. You walk into that transaction with total leverage because you can walk away. That changes everything about the experience. And then, this is the beautiful part, you restart the car fund immediately after the purchase. You are now permanently out of the car payment cycle. You never pay interest on a vehicle again. You are your own bank for this particular purpose, and it costs you $200 a month to maintain that freedom. Because here's what I really want to leave you with, and this is bigger than the math. The person who pays off their car and immediately takes on a new payment is not free. They're on the treadmill, they might have a nicer car, they might get the looks at the light, but they are obligated to the lender, to the monthly payment, to the full coverage insurance, to the depreciation they're eating on a car they don't own yet. Every month, before they make a single decision about their own life, a significant chunk of money is already spoken for. That's not freedom. That's the appearance of freedom with chains you've agreed to forget about. The person who takes that same monthly amount and puts it somewhere boring, who drives the older car a little longer, who quietly builds the thing nobody can see from the road, that person is building something different. They're building optionality, the ability to say no to a job that stops making sense, to a city that stopped fitting, to a situation that stopped being okay. Because here's what financial security actually feels like from the inside. It feels like not needing things to work out, not needing the raise to come through, not needing the promotion, not needing the next deal to close, because if it doesn't, you're fine, you have time, you have options, you can wait. That kind of patience is worth more than almost anything you can put a number on. There's a phrase I keep coming back to, walking away money. It's not retirement. It's not, I never have to work again. It's just enough of a cushion that you're making decisions from a place of calm rather than necessity. And you know what accelerates getting there faster than almost anything? Not adding back the payment. That's it. Not some complex strategy, not timing the market, not finding the perfect investment, just not reflexively filling the hole that your last payment left behind. Before we wrap, I'm genuinely curious, are you someone who paid off a car and immediately got back into a payment, or did you manage to break the cycle? Drop it in the comments because I think that experience is really common, and I don't think people talk about it honestly enough, because almost everyone who's ever had a car loan has felt that pull at the red light. The new truck in the next lane, the way the light catches the paint, the thought that arrives without being invited. That's not a character flaw, that's a system doing what it was built to do. Person B Stoim, the one who didn't go back, who set up the automatic transfer, who kept driving the paid-off car for one more year, while the index fund quietly did its thing. Nobody sees that from the road. There's no visual signal, no head turns. But 30 years from now, when they have the kind of financial flexibility that most people spend their entire lives describing as someday, they're going to remember this exact moment, not the payoff, not the certificate of title, the 30 days after. That's where it actually starts. If this video made you think even a little differently, hit like. Every week I put out videos about small decisions that change everything over time. Subscribe so you don't miss it. See you in the next one.